Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my dream world. So, we have finally reached the quarterfinals of Dancing with the Stars season 34. Now, for those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Karina. This is my dream world, and I like to talk about different TV shows and pretty much anything that comes to mind on this channel. This is just for fun. I will note that I am not a trained dancer, so I don't really have the technical abilities to be like, hey, this went wrong here, or like, I really loved this. But I do work in entertainment and I've grown up around a lot of dancing. So while my eye isn't trained, I'm just watching this from an entertainment perspective. If y'all have different opinions because you are ballroom dancers, that's awesome. Please put it in the comments. I'm happy and very excited to hear from any and everyone as long as we keep it kind. And the reason I'm saying this is because I know social media has got pretty intense and, inflammatory almost on pretty much every platform, and I don't want to have that space be negative. Let's just celebrate our favorites, and now that we're heading into the semifinals, who are you rooting for? So, for those of you, again, who don't know, I began watching this series in season 30 during COVID, so I am not an OG fan. However, as a media person, I've done my research, kind of looked into past seasons, looked at clips, watched episodes of past seasons, so I do kind of know a decent amount of the lore of this series. If you're an OG watcher, please feel free to correct me again, this is just for fun. So let's get right into it because I've held you up long enough. Even though I'm not an OG watcher, that opening number made me emotional because even though I don't have the same attachment to the show as a lot of longtime viewers probably do, I absolutely love that opening number. It started with the 6 season 1 OG Dancing with the Stars pros, and I think that's so awesome. I'm really happy that all of them were able to come to this whole thing, and then there was that big dance section introducing the rest of the pros, past and present, I believe. And then, throughout that whole sequence, there was a little light shining on Len's seat. And then, of course, Tom made his big entrance. Tom Bergeron, my birthday buddy. Again, I started watching, unfortunately, past Tom's time on this show, but I can see how much of an impact he's made. And again, I've watched, the old, a bunch of clips from the older seasons, so I know how much of a beloved host he was for this show. I mean, he was there season 1 through season 28, correct? That's such an amazing run. And I gotta stand up for my birthday buddy, so I was just really happy. You can tell that the ballroom was just lit up with so much joy because of that, and that made me happy. There were also a bunch of past contestants in the audience too, and that's it. Just the vibes were good and it made me emotional. Even I was able to feel it as a new fan. But I'm gonna dive right into each dance now. I'm gonna say I do have some pretty strong opinions, but again, if you don't agree with me, that's totally fine. I'm just gonna ask you to be kind because I will be blocking any negative energy because ain't nobody need any of that. So opening the night, we had Elaine. I am so happy that Elaine is still in the competition. So happy. She's been one of my favorites since the beginning. I was really worried that because, a lot of other people were getting so much more hype or have more social media followers, I was worried that she was going to be a mid-season boot, but she wasn't. She's made it all the way to the semifinals, and I would love to see her go all the way. I just really love her journey getting back into dance and how much joy, she just looks so happy to be here. She looks so happy, and everybody talks about Andy, and I'll get into him in a moment, but everybody talks about how happy Andy looks to be here and how much joy he gives them. That's kind of how I feel about Elaine, to be perfectly honest. So I'm super happy that she's been here. She's been one of my top 2, at least in terms of pure enjoyment. I really loved this dance. I think it is my favorite salsa of the season so far, since, like, yes, it had its lifts and it had its tricks, but it wasn't just so full of tricks that there was barely any salsa content. Like, I saw there was also a little bit of hip hop content, which people were saying they loved. I do I do tend to prefer Elaine's ballroom over her Latin. And I do stand by that. I think, like, her Viennese waltz last week was absolutely stunning. But I did love this salsa, and I was very, like, you know what? I know, like, there's a whole thing about the scoring, and I will get into that. I think she scored pretty correctly. And I was kind of annoyed, though, because even though she got good feedback, I'm kind of like, if you're not gonna give her a 10, I need you to tell her why. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, and this is my honest opinion, that only one person really got critiqued tonight, and I'll get into that. Why am I saying tonight? This was like 2 nights ago. One person was critiqued this week. And I'm going to get into who that was. But if you're not going to give 10s, I need to hear critique. And I'm not saying Elaine's dance was perfect or that she deserved a 10. I think that her scores were appropriate. But I'm just like, I'm going to need to hear why you're not giving out a 10 when you're not, like, because, like, if you're not giving any feedback, how's she going to do better? I get that she's not going to do a salsa again, but it's like, you need to tell her why she's not getting a 10 if you're not going to give her 10s. That's it. I'm basically repeating myself at this point, but I'm not mad at the 9s. I think there could have been more of a wow factor to her dance. There could have been, you know, sharper and smoother technique. From what I can see, again, I'm not a technical dancer, but, you know, I can kind of tell, like, when somebody's movement quality is slightly off, or, like, if they messed up their footing, which I will get into because there was a lot of that in the relays. But, yeah, I am fine with her scores on an individual level. I am not super happy with the scoring overall for this week, but that's just me. So I'm going to move on. Next, we have Robert. First of all, not actual royalty FaceTiming Robert on Dancing with the Stars. That was certainly not on my bingo card this year. As for his dance, I think it was lovely. Don't kill me, Robert Stans. There was a little bit of stiffness for me. There was something about his movement quality that made it not quite as effortless as some of the other dances that got perfect scores tonight. If y'all saw it too, you can tell me more technical terms in the comments, but, like, I get why some people are kind of like, he's outscored, because it's like, you know, there could be, but, like, for somebody with no dance experience, I think he did amazing, but it's like, I feel like at this point we need to be judging on the same level because we're at the end of the competition. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't get super emotional until the end. And that's because I feel like I saw it coming. We knew what this was all about. It was a beautiful tribute, absolutely stunning, but, like, we've seen Bindi do it. We know we've mourned his dad. We've mourned all of that. Like, we've given tribute to his mom. That dance actually made me more emotional, to be completely honest. But yeah, I definitely think that he's improved since week one. Because I've seen a bunch of people saying, like, his week 1 jive is still his best dance, and I'm going to strongly disagree with that. I preferred his paso I think his paso is my favorite dance so far, because that really, other than that, like, slight timing issue, I thought that was his most improved dance. Feel free to disagree with me, but that's how I felt. I don't love, this is what was my biggest gripe. I don't love that Carrie Ann gave up the Lift Police title for Robert, because as much as I love him, this is the inconsistencies that I cannot stand on this show. There is pretty obvious favoritism there from that, because, like, Chandler got flamed by Carrie Ann last year because there was an accidental lift in her dance. I don't remember the exact stipulations, but I think they were trying to do, like, a move where she would drag her foot on the floor and kind of like a Rondejean style, but then Brandon, like, kind of went too fast, and I don't know how to explain it, but, like, it was not an intentional lift. But there was a lift in this dance, so apparently I didn't really see it, 'cause I think I was just not registering that kind of stuff. But I just don't like that she was inconsistent. And people were saying, like, it's because it was Whitney who was part of the accidental lift, not Robert's fault. But I'm like, well, there still shouldn't have been a lift. Like, if Alex is going to get penalized, well, I guess that was Cheryl being a guest judge. But if Alex is going to get penalized for breaking hold, we can penalize Robert for an accidental lift, even if it wasn't her fault. Just like breaking hold wasn't Alex's fault. That was Val's choreography. I mean, I thought it was great choreography, but rules are rules, so I'm not the one to be all like, how dare they do that, and whatever. But the point is, it's inconsistent. And I'm not, I don't think this was Robert's best dance. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm not ballroom trained. You can totally correct me if I'm wrong. I am willing to be wrong. I can admit it. And I will admit it with pride, because who am I to say that he didn't have perfect technique, because I'm not a ballroom dancer. But I don't think it was his best dance, and thus I wouldn't have given it a perfect score. That's just me. But I did absolutely love him in this dance. It's definitely shown his improvement. And I love Robert, y'all. Like, I really love Robert, and I will be happy with him winning. Does it feel like it's set up for him to win? A little bit. I mean, come on. People have been dying. And this isn't even shade. People have been dying for him to be on this show for years, begging. And now that he's finally on the show, of course everyone's going to come in and support him, new and old fans. Like, so many generations love this man. So yes, it does kind of feel like he's been giving the winner at it. And that's because he probably is going to win. I'm just going to say, like, I know some of y'all think Alex might snag it. I'll get into that, but we'll see. And I would love for him to win it, because he really is just such an amazing person, and he's doing a great job for somebody with no experience. I won't be biased, though. Like, I'm going to be honest about my thoughts on the dance compared to everyone else and compared to his other dances, because that's what I can go by. It's just the consistency is key for me. I've called out double standards before when it comes to the judging, when it comes to how they're looking at dances and stuff. So I'm going to call it out here, too, even though, like, Robert is in my top 3 dancers, or, like, contestants, should I say? Maybe not dancers, but contestants this season. Anyway, for those of you who, might be like, you're hating on Robert. I am not hating on Robert. I absolutely love him. I think he did a beautiful dance. I'm just, we're this late in the competition, so yes, I'm going to be more critical than I usually would be. Okay, and next we had Andy. When I saw that Andy had a quick step, I was like, oh no, this could be very ugly. And, like, I love Andy, I really, really do, but this was the week that he was going to be exposed, because he didn't have any, like, dances that could cover up his weaknesses yet. Like, he's done a jazz, he's done a contemporary, and this is a fast dance, and it's pretty technical. Like, it's pretty clear to see when people make mistakes in the quick step, because it's such a fast-paced dance. I will say, it could have been worse. He didn't do the dance poorly. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Where is the quick step? Because I felt like there was little to no content in there. And him getting an 8 for this was wild. I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to get into that. But, like, yes, he did the steps. Yes, that was, like, it was, like, quick step, very, very basic. But other than that, there was little to no content, because he can't do it. He can't. Like, that was not, And, again, this is where I just get kind of annoyed, because I'm like, they gave him literally no critiques. They gave him 7s and even an 8. And people went crazy because he did more than just let Emma, because I will say, he got across that floor. He got across that floor better than I thought he was going to do. And he didn't, like, trip up the footwork or anything. He just kind of, like, barely did any content besides that. And it's clearly the weakest dance of the night. Like, let's just be for real, y'all. And I don't love that, like, he's getting an 8, because are we really going to say that he was only 1 point below Elaine and Carrie-Anne? Really? I was just I'll get into her in a minute, but I was starting to defend Carrie-Anne, and then tonight, like, this week, I was just like, ugh, oh no. But Tom, I love you. I don't think Len would have loved that dance. Let's be for real. Okay, so I'm gonna leave space for the memorial dance and just, leave that here, because even as a newer fan, that dance got me teary-eyed, because it's touching and sad to give tribute to all the alums of the show who have passed on, and especially, of course, Len. I may have only seen him on 2 seasons, but it was pretty clear to me that he was the glue that kept the judging table together, because without him, it's been a little bit of a mess for the past few seasons there. We need a Len Goodman type traditionalist back on the panel. Say it with me if you agree. Okay, and next we had Dylan, and I know this is a very controversial dance this week, and people are kind of flaming him. Like, half the people are like gaga over him, half the people are complaining, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I gonna have to be the mediator again? But again, I've said this about Dylan. He's good, he's fine, he's improved. He has, like, for somebody with literally no dance experience and no performance, like, he is not an actor. He just happened to be on Traitors, but he's not a performer. He doesn't have prior dance experience. So for somebody in that category, I think he's doing a good job. I love Danny's choreography, and he was pretty good with those flicks and the Argentine tango technique, as far as I can tell. It was just his frame, and I think it is because Danny is tiny, and yeah, that's obviously going to pose some difficulty for him, but with the way the judges were going gaga over, like, he's such a leading man and everything, I was like, he is? Oh. Because to me, and some people were like, Danny's just dancing around him, but while I don't entirely agree with that, because he was doing, like, true Argentine tango technique, and I was like, you know what, Dylan, I'll give it up for you, because good for you. Like, I just do feel like Danny is outdancing him. She just is. And, it's not her fault that she's so good and that she has amazing choreography, but most of that dance highlighted her, which makes sense, I guess, because the Argentine tango does highlight the woman, but it's like, we're in the semifinals, or like quarterfinals, going into the semifinals. I want to see more from Dylan, and I'm just not seeing it. And I watched Gilles, is that his name? Gilles Marini. I watched his Argentine tango just to compare, because Carrie Ann compared Dylan's dance class. Carrie Ann compared their dances, right? Like, she said, I think you've just dethroned him as the king of Argentine tango. I may not be dance trained, but I can tell you I strongly disagreed with that comparison. I just think he's getting kind of glazed. And that's not to say that he's not doing a great job. I think he is. For somebody with no, like, I don't know if I could be that good if I went on that show. But, like, I do feel like he's getting a little bit glazed by the judges. That being said, he has improved, but it's kind of like, is he the weakest dancer left in the competition when it comes to this top 6? Personally, to me, I think he is. Again, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do kind of feel like he is the weakest one left, at least from my perspective. And I wasn't getting the glaze that the judges had. And I don't even know, was it his best dance? I do think that technically it was his best dance, though. I will give him that. I'm just kind of like, why is this getting a perfect score when other dances that got perfect scores were clearly better than this? And I'm not talking about Robert, I'm talking about a few other people who I'm going to get into in a minute, because I'm just kind of like, it just doesn't feel right, because I think 2 celebs deserved perfect scores tonight, and I wouldn't put him as one of those celebs. However, like, I sound like I'm hating. I truly do believe that he did a good job and he deserves to be here. Like, I'm not mad. I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I agree with the outcome that we got, but he still did a good job. Then we have Jordan. I think that she did a really good job with this dance, but it's not my favorite from her. And I was just annoyed that, like, the judges were very, very critical with her. Very critical. Their energy was completely different with everybody else that night except for Jordan. And I do feel like she outdanced a few people. and deserved a little bit, like, I feel like her scores weren't necessarily too low, but that because I felt like she did better than some people that scored higher than her, she felt underscored, even though she wasn't. Um, but I'm just kind of like, because even Ezra went online and said, like, actually, I think our scores were correct. And who am I to argue with one of the pros? I do think her scores were correct because she's had better dances than this. Like, I preferred her rumba, I preferred her jazz, so, like, I get it. She didn't get a perfect score. And I'm not mad that she didn't get a perfect score, but I'm just kind of like, was she really, like, other than Andy, second worst in the night? And was Elaine really the worst? I don't know. Um, I'll admit it though, like, I didn't find this dance perfect, but I was just kind of like, oh, I'm not feeling the scoring tonight because it's just off to me. I felt like she was maybe like in the middle of the pack this week for me, but I don't know. I didn't like that the energy just felt so different with her than it did with everybody else, especially on this night. Like, everybody's supposed to be like peppy and happy tonight, but I felt like they were kind of more negative with her, and I didn't love that. Okay, next we have Alex, and this was perfect score worthy. My favorite dance from her, and I think my favorite dance of the night. There's really not much else for me to say other than I loved this dance. Admittedly, I'm not a huge Alex fan outside of the show, but I can call a spade when it comes to how good a dance was, and this was amazing. Like, everybody's been, I don't know, like, there's been overscoring, underscoring, blah, 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 but Alex finally got her perfect score, which I do think she deserved last week and probably the week before, too. Part of me does want to say, watch out, Robert, because if you don't step it up, we might have an upset here because she is the only one with a fan base that can compete with him. But that's also me only being on TikTok. I'm not really on Instagram and Facebook, and people have been telling me otherwise. But, if the scores are close, it's going to come down to votes, and y'all better buckle up because I think it's going to be a little shocking on social media regardless of what happens. I mean, I'm not going to be shocked if Robert wins, obviously, but it's going to come down to votes, y'all. So if Alex is your fave, vote, vote, vote. Side note, I also loved the short hair on her. I thought it looked really, really good, and she looked gorgeous in this costume, by the way. Like, favorite dance of the night, just saying. Okay, and last but not least of the individual rounds, we had Whitney. I know y'all don't like this woman, but this was perfect score worthy as well. Alex and Whitney were top two of the night, objectively. And yes, I'm primarily a Jordan and Elaine supporter, but again, I can call a spade a spade. And I actually had to go rewatch this dance because I was so, like, discombobulated after everything that was going on. I was stressing out because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want Elaine or Jordan to go home. But Whitney was so good, y'all. You don't have to like this woman, but call a spade a spade. She's fantastic. And I do think that she's one of two people that really did deserve that perfect score tonight. I think I liked Alex's a little bit more, one, because I just absolutely love foxtrots. It's my favorite on the ballroom style end, the standards end. And I felt like she performed a little bit better. Like, Whitney, like, Cell Block Tango is overdone, not just on Dancing with the Stars. Like, Cell Block Tango is a very iconic piece, and there's, like, a specific type of performance that, as a theater kid, because mind you, I work in theater both as an actor and as an admin person, so I've seen a lot of theater, and I was like, I could have had a little bit more Cell Block Tango vibes from her, but she was still so freaking good. I mean, that was the Argentine tango of the night, y'all. No tea, no shade. And also the Chicago, like, the official Chicago musical account reposted her dance and was, like, talking about it and stuff. So we might be looking at a new Roxy here, y'all. All right, then we go into the relays, and I absolutely hate that Jordan and Elaine had to go up against each other because they're my two faves, and especially after, like, them not getting the best scores to this week, I was like, I need them both to get bonus points, and I was like, no, they're going up against, so I was a little bit distraught. Like, not to be over dramatic, but I was kind of freaking out at this point. I won't be biased, and I'll be honest, they both had mistakes. I saw timing issues with the footing, especially, and during my first watch, and this goes for both of them actually, during my first watch, I was like, okay, I am gonna, like, while I was watching, I was like, I think I'm gonna give it to Elaine, but then she kind of messed up at the end. So I was like, no. So I do think Jordan ended up winning that pretty fair and square, because they both had, like, you know, pretty visible timing mistakes, but Elaine's to me was more visible. I do think that Elaine performed better though. Like, she felt more in the piece. I did love the Jordan and Apollo matchup. I thought that was really, really good. I thought they looked great together. They might have, like, screwed up the footing a little bit, but, like, mind you, Apollo hasn't danced in what, like 10, 15 years? So, you know, I'll give him a little bit of slack, because this was a challenge that I feel like both of them would have done better with their actual pro, just because they've worked with them for longer, obviously, and some of these people haven't danced in years, but it's just like, you know, it comes down to who danced the cleanest, and I do think it was Jordan by a smidge, but I absolutely loved both of these ladies. Okay, and then we got Andy versus Dylan. I'm gonna be real, this was free points for Dylan, which he definitely didn't need, but, you know, give Dylan them points. He danced better objectively. I'm gonna be real though, I kind of wasn't paying attention during this one, because I was like, come on, y'all, I don't think I need to watch it to know who's gonna win. So I actually missed the crazy moment at first where Andy, like, ripped off his shirt and revealed those, like, quote unquote abs underneath his shirt. But yeah, no shade. I was just kind of like, this is something I don't really need to get invested in, because we know who's gonna win this matchup. Objectively, it's gonna be Dylan, and rightfully so. I mean, he danced better. But I was like, yeah, I'm not really invested in this. I would have rather have seen Elaine versus Andy and Dylan versus Jordan, which I initially thought it was going to be. But, you know, you let me know how y'all feel about these matchups in the comments, though. And then, of course, last but not least, we have Alex versus Robert. And yes, going into this, I was like, is this a fair matchup? But then I thought about it, and I was like, Alex is the better dancer and has improved, I believe, that she's improved the most during this season. I'll call it spade a spade, but I did like Robert's jive better than her jive. So I was like, he might do better with this one. And I really like both Joey and Sochi, so I was like, oh gosh, like, who am I even rooting for here? And Sochi has never done a jive. So I was like, oh boy, like, is she gonna struggle? Like, I mean, she has loads of energy and she is an amazing performer, so I didn't have any qualms about her, but it does kind of suck when, like, Joey did the jive not once but twice on his season, which was last year, and Sochi never had done the jive, so I was like, oh boy. I was also fairly worried about Alex's nose, because she got whacked in the face like 6 times, and Alex, please do not lean backwards when your nose is bleeding, because that's a recipe for you to swallow too much blood and then get a stomach ache. So I hope her nose is okay. But honestly, I cheered up. Like, this night was so hectic for me, but I cheered up quite a bit after watching this relay, because I thought they both did a really good job. Shockingly, and some of y'all might disagree with me on this, but I liked Robert and Sochi's a little bit better, at least in terms of, like, energy wise. I think it came down to performance for me, because they both had really good jive content in them, but Robert and Sochi kind of, like, had the energy I felt that matched the song and the jive just a little bit more, while Joey and Alex's just kind of felt a little bit bland because of how animated the other two were. Jive is clearly Robert's jam. That's all I'm gonna say. He said it since the beginning. He's like, I want to do the jive every week because I love it. I need a quick step from this man. But I thought that this could have gone either way. I also just think, and y'all can feel free to disagree with me, but I didn't love the Alex and Joey partnership. And the reason I felt that way is because, like, while I enjoyed both of them on the show, I'm like, I don't know, their energy, they both have very, like, chill energy that's almost a little bit, like, too bland when they're with somebody else who also has that energy. And so I'm like, oh, maybe that's why, because, like, Robert and Sochi are just, like, bubbles and hyperness and golden retriever energy, while these two are just, like, cool, calm, and collected. And I think actually that might have been why they ended up not winning this round. I don't know. A lot of people are saying, like, Alex clearly had better technique, so she should have won. I don't disagree with that, but in terms of enjoyment, I did find myself liking Robert and Sochi's just a titch better. But that's just me. You're allowed to disagree with me. And also Tom totally, because like right after this he said something like, there's something I want to address with production, and I was like, huh? But then he mentioned the results show, which of course I wasn't around for, but I would be very curious to see that play out, because a lot of people have been saying we want the results show back because it'll give us more time to vote. It'll give everybody more time to vote, and it like gives us more in terms of the show, in terms of content and, you know, suspense and opportunity to get engaged. So I'd be for it. Like, you know, those of you who are around for that, tell me what that was like, because I'd be very intrigued to see that happen. But, you know, I was getting pretty worked up because at this point, now that we're getting to the elimination, I was like, I am going to be upset because I think Elaine or Jordan is going home. I'm not happy about it because those are my two personal favorites. And so I actually skipped the elimination because I was like, I'm not going to get myself worked up over Dancing with the Stars. I have to go to work tomorrow. I have meetings tomorrow. I can't be getting upset. But then I saw that my girls were safe, and I am okay. I am okay, you guys. I am so happy that both of them are safe. I was a little bit, like, frustrated, and I was like, if one of them goes home, I might straight up just not watch the rest of the show and wait to the finale to recap. But call me overdramatic, but I was truly feeling that way in the moment because I'm working full time. It's not worth it for me to get worked up over a dance competition, a TV show. But after a stressful night, I was very happy that both of my favorites were safe. Even though this wasn't their best night, I do believe that they deserve to be in the semifinals, if not the finals. I would love to see them both in the finals. But I will address the elephant in the room, Andy Richter. I love Andy Richter. Truly a wonderful person. I'm so glad that he has been showered with love and support. I know there's been a fair share of hate, and I'm never there for the hate. I might be critical of some of these dances, but that doesn't mean I think anyone should ever be sent hate for being on this show. If you don't like someone, just don't vote for them. And you're allowed to say, like, I'm not voting for so-and-so cause insert. But let's not send anyone hate. It's not cool. It's not his fault that people were voting for him and supporting him. And he said, like, in his career that this is some of the most amount of love that he's ever received, and I love that he was able to get that, even though he stayed longer than I would have wanted personally. There were a few other people I would have wanted to keep. Lauren. But yeah, I'll let that go, sorry. But I want to end this on a positive note. And let's send Andy off to get his hip fixed, please, because poor guy has been kind of waiting for that for a while now. But truly, what a wonderful person. Please if you were a fan of Andy on this show, please keep supporting his work because he's been in this industry for such a long time and is a great person. He deserves more credit for the work he's done outside of this show, period. So I'm glad to have ended this on a more positive note because I was getting stressed about everything. And truly, I'm going to give it up to everyone. I think everybody did such a good job because I might have been more critical of a few other contestants, but really at the end of the day, it's just because I do prefer some dancers over others. That's just how the show goes for me. But yeah, that's all I have for you for this night tonight. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will get into what I'm going to have coming up next. I will be working on my review for Nia's book, From Dance Moms, Bottom of the Pyramid. I'm very excited to discuss it with you all and hear your thoughts. I'm also going to begin my binge and complete rewatch and review of Lego Ninjago, which I am very excited to do since I've been wanting to do that for a while. Sorry if I seemed kind of like tired this video, it's because I am. But truly, I am very happy with this final 6. Could I have made some changes? Yeah, I could have, but I'm happy with it. I really, really am, and I'm very much looking forward to the semifinals. I really appreciate any of you who stuck around to watch the whole video, and if you're enjoying this recap series, please like and subscribe. I will see you all for the semifinals next week. Bye!